Umpire Mag feed, and I can't wait to go across the pond to listen to Across the Pod, fresh out of Wales. Special stuff. Cheers.
Hello everyone, Andy here, and here's what you can look forward to in today's episode. In today's episode, I was joined by Minnesota Vikings fan John Macdonald as we look ahead to the team's upcoming season. John discusses his time in Pittsburgh as the International Fan of the Year.
I only got handed the name about 10 seconds before I walked on stage.
John also gives his take on the team's off-season.
From what I've seen from training camp, the draft picks look good.
And I asked John about last season's offensive line issues and much more as John predicts the team's end-of-season record in our win-loss or tie segment. Hope you all enjoy. If you combine all the three quarterbacks that played for the Vikings last year, they were sacked 62 times last season, which is more than any quarterback in the league. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Across the Pod NFL podcast. I am, as ever, your host today, Andy Davis, and we are here for another team season preview. And as you can see from the title, our team in focus today is the Minnesota Vikings. Now, before we introduce our guest, this podcast is sponsored by Fantasy Game Day app. Use code Andy5 at checkout for money back off your first paid lineup. Now, returning to the show is our resident Vikings fan. He appeared on last season's season preview. Back on the show today is Vikings fan and Vikings International Fan of the Year. It's John Macdonald. John, good to have you on.
Hello, Andy. Thank you very much for having me. It's good to be back. Good to talk to Vikings football. You can feel football now. You can taste it. It's just around the corner now, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even though I found the game hard to get worked up by and hard to get excited for, the Hall of Fame game certainly gave me that itch to have games back, because I find preseason games hard to watch. There's no intensity, there's no jeopardy, apart from you look at the players who are trying to make the active roster. But it just gives you that itch, especially when you hear Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth on the commentary. You're thinking, right, it is just around the corner now, and I'm so excited. And I was saying this in a few episodes that because my team isn't expected to do much as a team, there's no pressure, there's no stress involved, there's no anxiety, because you're going to be bad, so you can just enjoy the league for what it is.
Yeah. Sometimes it is. I know seasons when the Vikings haven't started well, it takes the whole stress out of it, and you can just sit there and watch Red Zone on a Sunday and just enjoy the sport for what it is. And it's sometimes really nice to do that.
Absolutely. And the International Fan of the Year Bonanza week continues. We've had Ant Cook on, our Jets International Fan of the Year. We had Brad Simcox on in our last episode for Chiefs. And we've got yourself, John, who you were also one of the UK contingent for the International Fan of the Year winners. Just explain that for us about, because you, like Ant, like Brad, you were out in Pittsburgh on a trip to announce a draft pick live on stage. Just explain for the audience just how that experience was.
It was absolutely amazing. It's one of those experiences that you just can't put into words. It's the top of the mountain as far as I'm concerned of NFL fandom, apart from playing the game. But it's just absolutely amazing to think that of so many people I was chosen, and just to be announcing a future player for my team, and the backstage experience we got there, going in the green room and meeting the players over from the international player pathway. It was just an amazing experience, and all the people we met out there, because we'd all won it for a reason, because we love the game and we want to spread the love of the game. It was just an awesome bunch of people, and we've all become such great friends out there.
Yeah, I've heard about the group chat and how that's popping off. So that will be, I'm sure there'll be plenty of stories, maybe even meetups in the future regarding, I think Brad talked about it, that, you guys could one day have a little meetup during the season and watch some NFL. I mean, also just explain for us as well what that feeling's like when you go from the green room, you're called up, and then, you're walking through that little stage, and you can see next thing you know, you're on the stage, and you can see all those tens of thousands of people watching you.
Yeah, that it was. I was absolutely bricking it because I only got handed the name about 10 seconds before I walked on stage, and they were like, "This is the name you've got to read out. This is the name you've got to read. This is how you pronounce it." I was just like, And the moment I walked out on stage, I heard the international fan contingent cheering me, and all my worries went away. You look. I was looking out, and there was meant to be about 100,000 people in that stadium at that point, just looking out at that, and yeah, just get out there and say the name. But all my worries went away the moment I heard all my international fans cheering and shouting for me, because that's what we did. We were all there to support each other.
And the pick was used on your 163rd overall selection in cornerback Charles Demings. Amazing stuff. Speaking of amazing stuff, since we last spoke in last season's season preview, you did your charity cycle ride once again. Amazing achievement there. For those who listening who maybe weren't listening in last year's season preview or don't follow you on socials, just explain to the audience about your experience and what you did once again at the London Games.
Yeah, well, obviously the Vikings.
Not even London, it was Dublin, wasn't it?
It was both, because we played back to back. So yeah, we played in Dublin one week, and then the next week we played in London. So I decided foolishly that I was going to cycle between the two venues and raise money for charity. We raised over £6,000 for Mind. Yeah, it was absolutely amazing. I was hoping I would get some people join me along the way, but no one ended up being that foolish, because it was a bit far. But yeah, it was just an amazing support I got from all NFL communities. It was an amazing cycle ride, cycling across North Wales and then all through the canals of Birmingham and everything like that. It would have been brilliant, but unfortunately it was during Storm Amy on the last couple of days, which was absolutely brutal, and I ended up soaked for the last 3 days. It was absolutely dreadful, but yeah, it was an amazing experience and just something to tick off the list. And it's all about raising money for Mind and charities, and that's what we're all about, really.
Yeah, it's an incredible achievement to do it back years as well. It's just such a great thing to do, and it's such a really respectable thing to do, because it's I can't imagine it's an easy thing to do. Doing all that cycling, and I've cycled before. I've uphill. I've cycled in spin classes, and it's not an easy thing to cycle. So to do that for that long a journey is really commendable. Really, really commendable. And yeah, it's a very good thing you did there. We'll move on now to the ins and outs of the Vikings off season. So, players coming in via free agency, returning to the team, include the likes of Carson Wentz, Eric Wilson, Xavier Scott, Tavia Thompson, Jaden Richmond. You did lose the likes of Jaden Naylor, Ryan Wright, Ben Sims, and Ty Chandler to free agency. You brought in as well the likes of Kyler Murray, Johnny Hecker, James Pierre, Brian Van Der Mark, Eric Johnson, Jawan Jennings. And then you lost the likes of Jonathan Harris, Max Percher, Sione Taki, Jonathan Allen, Javon Hargrave, Harrison Smith, a long-time servant of the team, and also the likes of CJ Ham and Ryan Kelly, both retired. And then in the draft, you took 18th overall defensive lineman Caleb Banks. You took Jake Golday in the second round. You took in the third round Dominique Orange, Caleb Tiernan, and Jacoby Thomas. In the fifth round, you took Max Bredesen, and you announced Charles Demings. And then in the sixth round, you took Demond Claiborne. And in the seventh round, you took Gavin Gerhardt. John, for you, as a Vikings fan, what is your take on the team's off-season as a whole?
We're on a budget this year. Let's face it. We're not going to be going out there spending big money. Obviously, during the draft, we didn't even have a GM, so we had an interim GM at that point. But yeah, it was one of those where we're where we are. So I'm hoping for a better season. But from what I've seen from training camp, the draft picks look good. I mean, Banks would have been a lot higher pick if he had been fit when he first came in. So, but he fell to us, and we're very happy to have him.
Yeah, I mean, the thing of the draft I find a lot of years is you just don't know how players are going to work out. The amount of players I see hyped up that don't work out, and the amount of players I see who aren't talked about and do well. I mean, even some of the best players of all time. I mean, Tom Brady was infamously 199th overall. Joe Montana, 4th round. Travis Kelce, 5th round. Tyreek Hill was a late round pick. And even some teams passed on Justin Jefferson. You just don't know. You just do not know. And, you look at the board and, I at the time, I kind of did a top 5 best and worst draft picks. And I did talk about Caleb Banks, there being other players available, but you just don't know how these players are going to be. And even if they're good, they sometimes aren't fit, or they sometimes are fit. You just don't know. So, I, especially as myself, someone who doesn't really watch college football as much, it's hard for me to really gauge how good a player is. So you just don't know. You just don't know how a player's going to be and how a player's going to do. So it is a lottery, the draft, but I think sometimes as well, if a player is passed on by teams, if a player is maybe falls down a board, it can sometimes give them that sort of chip on their shoulder. It can give them that extra oomph to perform well. Unlike some players who maybe have it all in college, have it all in high school, and then they get to the NFL level and then it goes slightly wrong and they aren't prepared for it. They're used to things going their way. So, yeah, I don't think it's the worst thing for a player to join a team when they feel like they've been disrespected or they've been falling down the draft board. So, yeah, it might not be the worst thing in the world that he felt to you.
Yeah, I'm very happy with it. One thing I'm absolutely ecstatic about is coming out of training camp at the moment. Everyone is screaming and shouting from the rooftops about Charles Dennings. My pick. He is at the beat writers cannot stop speaking about how good he is. Going up against Justin Jefferson, breaking up passes. He's and I'm just so excited because I've still got the draft card over on my wall there because I'm allowed to keep that, and the actual draft card. I'm like, oh, yes, I'm going to get him to sign that. Those are the one of one.
Yeah. Speaking of one on one, this might be a lock in. Last night they announced by Adam Schefter the first time eligible players for next season's Hall of Fame class. This includes the likes of Rob Gronkowski, Ben Roethlisberger, Richard Sherman, Cam Newton, Antonio Brown, somehow Le'Veon Bell, and Andrew Whitworth, Alex Mack, Gerald McCoy, and Eric Weddle. But the other guy that's been included in this list is a guy, I believe. Are you wearing his jersey? Or maybe not. That might be Harrison Smith. Adrian is it Harrison Smith?
Yeah, it's a Harrison Smith jersey, yes.
But Adrian Peterson is the guy that's also been named as a first-time eligible player. Do you think that I think this as well? Do you think that there's not even a question that he'll be inducted next year?
It's a stacked class for first year, isn't it? It's an absolute stacked class. But he was the last non-quarterback to win MVP, coming off a torn ACL the previous season. It was absolutely amazing, and he was just one of one. That guy was just he made me fall in love with the Vikings. Just watching him just break through a line, and you just knew he was leaving people in his dust back in the day. But they're also inducting him into the Vikings Ring of Honor this year as well. So that's during the Bills game that's being announced on the Monday Night Football. So yeah, he's going to be inducted into the Vikings Ring of Honor. But it's a stacked class this year. But I would hope that Adrian Peterson would be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I think him and Gronk are locked in for that. But there's two guys that might not be ending their careers as Hall of Famers. The two guys in your current quarterback room, in Kyler Murray and JJ McCarthy. Now, Kyler Murray, I mentioned it before, he's one of the incoming additions on a pretty risk-free deal, a bit like Tua on a very cheap deal. Where do you see this going? Because McCarthy's come in, won a national championship, hasn't really worked out. I thought he might do well. He hasn't seemed to, so far, have made it work in Minnesota. A lot of injuries, losing his starting spot. And then Kyler Murray has showed his potential in the NFL at times, but also has struggled to stay healthy, struggled to be consistent. Who do you think is going to be the guy? Because the consensus seems to be Kyler, but then it's not being confirmed. So who do you think will be the starter, not just week 1, but also week 14, week 15, when it comes to towards the end of the season?
Okay, so this is where the issues with recording in advance come into play. We recorded this back on Saturday, August 1st, which is why we haven't discussed on the episode that Kyler was the official starter for the team. But either way, hope you can enjoy this segment regardless.
Yeah, it's like they're saying it's a 50-50 battle. Let's face it, it's not. It's going to be a Kyler Murray starting week 1. I don't know if he'll finish the season because I don't think his style kind of fits KOC's, because KOC hates running the ball. He absolutely despises it with a passion. And Kyler Murray is a running quarterback. He doesn't like quarterbacks coming out their pocket. But yeah, with JJ, I've still got that little bit of hope because our O-line was so beaten up last year. It was not what he should have been behind, and yeah, he didn't have the security of that, but he's still not made the progress I would have hoped he'd have made by coming into his 3rd year now. So yeah, I'm keeping one eye on the draft for next year because that's a quarterback heavy draft. Let's just say that.
Well, the one guy that you could look at, now I talked about it in a previous episode, a previous season preview. So there may come to the point in the season you think about the trade deadline. Kyler might not be fit at that point. He might be on the sideline, injured. McCarthy might not be trusted. There's a certain quarterback who is a bit disgruntled at the moment, wants a new contract. He would be enticed by your receiver room. Baker Mayfield, could it get to the point where mid-season he wants out and the team want to get something back for him before they could let him go for free? Would you be tempted? Would you be tempted by Baker Mayfield? Would that be someone who you'd consider coming into the franchise?
I would very much consider it. I've always been a big fan of Baker. Even when if you can take the Browns to the playoffs, you're doing pretty well. Everyone forgets that he took a Browns team to the playoffs. Okay, guys, let's give the guy some credit where it's due. But yeah, he appears to be very disgruntled down in Tampa. He's been very open saying he wants to play for Tampa, but he's just not getting the contract he wants. So whether we can offer him the contracts that he wants up in Minnesota, we don't seem to be doing that at the moment because we were hamstrung by Kurt's contract for so long. We seem to be only offering one-year contracts, and I don't think that'll be something he'd be up for. But maybe a 2-3 year contract, see how it works out. Maybe we could entice him. I mean, with our receiver room and KOC, who's turned quarterbacks into absolute gold dust, where other people have dismissed them over the years. I mean, Sam Darnold was a laughing stock, and then comes to us for 1 year, wins 14 games, leaves us, and then goes and wins the Super Bowl the next year. So, yeah.
Actually, on that, how was that for you? Because Sam Darnold was in your building. He was in your building. To let him go and then see him very next season go and win it all, did part of you wonder what if when you saw him lifting that Lombardi in February?
Of course, there's always going to be a part of you that wonders what if, but the math simply didn't add up. We couldn't have paid what he wanted us to pay him. Unfortunately, we didn't have the same O-line as Seattle have as well, so that's always been a big struggle of ours at the O-line, unfortunately, in recent years. But fingers crossed, that seems to be shored up recently. But it's only if they're all fit. But yeah, I'm very happy for Sam because he's paid his dues in the NFL, and he was a laughing stock for a long time, and he's laughing now as a Super Bowl champion.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think he was a reason they won it, but at the same time, the job he did was really amazing, and he obviously
played a big part in JSN winning Offensive Player of the Year. So, he certainly, I think, has overcome that. I don't know whether he wins one again. I don't know whether this is it in terms of Super Bowls, but with that defense he's got with him, you just never know. You mentioned your offensive line. It's a good segue to my next question, was about the offensive line. So if you combine all the three quarterbacks that played for the Vikings last year, McCarthy, Carson Wentz, and Max Brosman, they were sacked 62 times last season, which is more than any quarterback in the league. The top guy was Geno Smith in the 50s range. You mentioned, I was going to ask you whether you're concerned about this upcoming season with the O-line, but it sounds like you're maybe quietly confident of the O-line being better this season.
The O-line is really good when it plays together, but unfortunately, it's not played together. It didn't play together very often last season. And we've just signed Brian O'Neill to a new contract. He's absolutely amazing. You've got Christian Darrisaw, who's one of the top in the league, and the new you've got Jackson in the middle there. It's a really good O line, but scratch beneath the surface is their backups aren't that great, and when you're O line, you need the backups to be just below, not significantly below what your O line is, because no O-line is going to sit there and play all season long with each other, because it just doesn't happen. People are going to get injured. People are going to get knocked. They're going to need a week out or something like that. That's where our problem was last season, and I think that our starters played with each other like maybe half a game last season, and that was where our problem was the entirety of last season. That was the crux of our problem last season.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a little bit with offensive line. There's always a little bit of, you can sometimes blame the quarterback if they're holding on to the ball for too long. I think sometimes a quarterback can be to blame for a sack more than the offensive line, which sometimes doesn't help their stats in that sense. But yeah, no, I think as well, this is why I do think the Bengals could be a good team this year, is because for the first time in Burrow's career with the Bengals, he's having all 5 starters return. So I think it's like a back four in football. You need that stability. You need to have the guys to be all there. They need to know how to work together. The center needs to know the quarterback's timings and all that. So it's an important position. I've always thought that I think personally, I've never seen a quarterback win a Super Bowl with a bad offensive line. I've seen teams win a Super Bowl with average quarterbacks. I've seen, maybe some teams haven't had great receivers and managed to get it done, the Chiefs in recent years. But I think if your O-line is terrible, I don't see a way you win a Super Bowl. Personally, I just don't believe you can win one. So it's an important area of the field. And yeah, absolutely, you need to keep those players on the field. We'll move on now to our final segment, which is win, lose or tie. So for those of you that aren't familiar with this segment of the show, each fan that comes on will predict their team's overall record by going through each game and answering with the simple answer of win, lose or tie. Now, John, you came on a year ago. In real life, the Vikings finished 9-8. Do you by chance remember what your prediction was a year ago?
It was either 9-8, 8-9, or 10-7. It was. I'm going to go 9-8.
Well, they're both wrong. It was 11-6 you went for.
11-6.
Only a couple of losses off, but no, it's you'll be hoping for that again. 11-6. You'll be hoping this year that is the right prediction, but no, not quite. But you aren't the first person certainly to get your prediction wrong from last season.
Yeah.
So week 1, you start off hosting your fiercest rivals in the Green Bay Packers. John, win, lose or tie?
I'm going to go for a win.
Okay.
Starting the season hot.
So sticking with your division rivals in week 2, you're on the road to the Bears. Now, John, for this game, after it finishes, will you be eating a donut?
I won't be. I won't be, unfortunately, this game, because I reckon the Bears are very good this year.
For those of you that aren't sure what I'm talking about, John has in the past on his social media posted himself eating a donut after the Vikings win a game, which the one season I remember you doing it vividly was the one where you had 14 wins. So many donuts that year.
Yes, many donuts. Yes.
Well, week 3, a team we've mentioned before in this episode, the Buccaneers and Baker Mayfield on the road.
I see that as a loss. I really like what the Bucs are doing down there, and I really like Baker Mayfield, as I say. And if it was at home, I might have had a different answer, but no, not down in Tampa.
Well, week 4, this is where our two teams combine and collide. You're hosting the Dolphins.
No offense, Andy, but I hope that's a win. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. And if we can't win against the Dolphins at our place, there's severe questions have to be asked.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I do think with maybe there might be at that point uncertainty at the QB position. Maybe we could catch you guys on an off day if the O-line isn't fully healthy as well. But no, I'm not expecting many wins this year. And I think going to that place with your defense as well, although I will say our offense might be our strength, I think our defense is going to be our biggest area of concern. I'm just picturing our secondary, our cornerbacks and safeties up against, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Hockenson. I just think that's a tough ask for our defense to stop that offense. But who knows? Week 5, you're back on the road, this time heading on to the Superdome and the Saints.
Again, if we don't win that, I'll be pretty annoyed, because the Saints aren't looking that great down there, really. As you say, with our defense, that blitz Brian Flores has coming off his defense, I don't think the young quarterback will be able to stand that, especially someone like him.
For week 6 is a bye week, so week 7 you're back at home, but this time taking on the Colts.
This is always an interesting game. It's probably one of the greatest games that has been seen at the Vikings Stadium, which was the 33-0 comeback that we played many years ago. But I'm going to go for another win. It's three poor teams in a row. I didn't think I was going to have us for that many wins in a row. But yeah, just look at that lines up pretty well. I mean, for the moment.
Yeah, so I was going to say the next 4 games it's a brutal 4-game stretch. So first up, you've got the Lions on the road.
Yeah, I've got us down for a loss there.
Then you've got the Bills at home.
Yeah, and that's another loss.
And then you've got the Packers on the road.
Yeah, I'm gonna go for another loss there as well.
And then the Niners on the road.
Yeah, and again, that's another loss.
Jesus, that is a really unforgiving 4-game stretch.
Yeah.
But actually, saying that, the last game I mentioned actually is on the road against the Niners, but actually it's a neutral venue. It's in Mexico, so
of course.
Yeah, so maybe you might have some sort of advantage, but then they're not going to be training at the substation facility, so maybe that'll work in their favour. The Niners.
Yeah.
Week 12, you're back at home at US Bank Stadium, and you are taking on the Falcons.
Yeah, going up against Tua. I don't know if he'll be starting there at that point for the Falcons, but it's going to be a tight one. That's going to be a tight one. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go for a Vikings win, though.
Okay, love it. And then week 13, you are facing once again at home the Carolina Panthers.
I reckon they're a scary team. Scarily underrated team, and I'm actually going to go for a loss here against the Panthers.
Okay. Week 14, you are back on the road, but this time you are taking on the reigning AFC champions in the Patriots.
Yeah, that's a loss.
Week 15, you are taking on your second time this season, the Lions, but this time you are at home.
That's another loss.
Okay, so then week 16, they've not announced whether it's going to be the 26th or 27th of December yet, but you are hosting the Commanders.
Yeah, that's another loss.
Oh, wow, okay. Week 17, you are facing your final road game of the season, a road game at MetLife against the Jets.
I hope that's a win. Again, I reflect back to the Dolphins and the Saints game. They're eyeing up next year, but the Jets are. They're beginning to build something down there.
So that is snapping a 9-game losing streak. That would be. I was not expecting. I was expecting more wins. I didn't think you'd be quite as worried about the season.
Didn't I have the Did I say the Falcons would beat us?
Yes, I've got you down as you beating the Packers, but then you're only then beating the Dolphins, the Saints, and then the Jets.
Okay.
Yeah, it's I think that's right. Yeah, so you got Packers win, Bears lost, Bucks lost, Dolphins win, Saints win. What is it? I've done it wrong. I have given you one less win than I thought. Apologies. It's this time of year. My brain's scrambled with all different season previews. So I got Bears lost, Buccaneers lost, Dolphins win, Saints win to go 3-2. You said Colts win, didn't you? Or Colts lost?
I cannot remember now. No, I said Colts win. Yeah,
that would be 4-2. So that means really it means you're actually going to be 6-10 at the moment, rather than 5-10. But you got your final game of the season. You're at home to the Bears. For the final time this episode, John, win, lose or tie.
I think I've got that down for a win. I reckon Bears have probably wrapped up the division by that point, and the Vikings are wanting to go out on a high.
Well, that means you're predicting 7-10. So that is obviously not going to be in the playoffs, but what would you if it was going to be a 7-10 season, how would you sort of reflect on the end of the season? Would you think that's what you expected? Would you be underwhelmed by that? Would you be, how would you feel if you actually ended up finishing 7-10?
I'd be disappointed, but looking at that draft next year for quarterback, I'm not gonna sit here and sugarcoat it unless McCarthy really shows something this year towards the end of the season. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I'm ready to cut ties because the Vikings have never drafted a quarterback. McCarthy was the highest quarterback we've ever drafted, and he was drafted 10th overall. That's the highest quarterback we've ever drafted in the league. So fingers crossed we look at this quarterback class and be like, all right, let's see what we can do here.
Fair enough. And that is where we will end the show for today. So John, first of all, a massive thank you for coming on today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, pleasure is all mine, mate. Good to have you on once again. And we will be meeting during the season. So you may hear John's voice once again during this upcoming season. But in the meantime, this has been the Across the Pod NFL podcast. I am, as ever, your host today, Andy Davis. And this has been our Vikings fan, John Macdonald, and Vikings Fan of the Year. And we'll see you guys next time. Take care.